People laugh about daddy issues. They make it a meme. They reduce it to a joke, like it's some quirky thing about girls who just date bad boys. But here is the savage truth. Daddy issues aren't funny, and your mother wound is not either. These things are not surface level. They are blueprints of your love life. They dictate who you chase, who you tolerate, and who you can't seem to quit. They are the reason you stayed in abuse, why you mistook pain for love, why you keep swiping past safety and going straight back to the one who feels like home, even when home was hell. And until you face these wounds, you'll keep laughing them off while they keep writing your script. Trauma will keep being your type until you heal your nervous system. I'm Megan Webster, an abuse recovery coach, a trauma-informed strategist, and the woman in Narcissist hopes to never meet twice. This is the Narcissist Worst Nightmare podcast where survival ends, shadow becomes power, and you rise as the woman impossible to manipulate, magnetize, or replace. Daddy issues are a father wound in disguise. Let's start with the one that everybody thinks they know. Daddy issues. When your father was absent, inconsistent, rejecting, or only gave you love when you performed for it, your nervous system learned something. Love is earned, not given. Attention is love, even when it comes in crumbs. Abandonment is normal, so when it happens later, you call it fate, not dysfunction. Distance is desirable. The harder he is to reach, the more valuable he must be. This is not a phase. It's your body remembering the ache of waiting by a window for a man who never came home. It's the sound of silence when you wanted him to notice your report card, your birthday, your existence, but he didn't. It's the panic that you felt when his approval flickered on and off like a light switch. That ache does not leave when you turn 18. It mutates. It becomes a spark you feel when someone ignores your text. It becomes the rush in your chest when someone looks over your shoulder instead of into your eyes. It becomes the craving for the man who makes you work for every ounce of attention because your body still believes that's what love is. I had a client tell me that all of the good guys felt flat. The ones who ignored her, made her wait, and kept her guessing, those were the ones she couldn't quit. That is not attraction. That is her wound running the show. My ex-husband could go days without speaking to me. Cold, distant, ignoring me like I was invisible in my own house. And instead of seeing that for what it was, control, my body translated it as, this is just how men are. Because my dad was very much the same. But the second my ex-husband decided he wanted something, like sex, my nervous system lit up and thought, oh, this must be chemistry. This must mean he still wants me. Looking back, it was not chemistry at all. It was manipulation. It was my body confusing survival spike for desire. I was starving for connection. So when he finally reached out, my nervous system rewarded me with that rush. And I mistook that rush for love. That is how patterns hook you. You think that it's intimacy, but it's really just your wound recognizing the cycle and calling it home. Here is your holy fuck truth. What you called chemistry was your father wound lighting up like a flare. And until you face it, every date, every relationship, every spark is just the same father wound wearing a new face. And the mother wound, when love means losing yourself, when your mother was critical, inconsistent, enmeshed, or emotionally unavailable, your nervous system learned something. Love means self-abandonment. Safety means caretaking. Your worth is measured in how much you give, not who you are. The mother wound shows up as that little girl who lowered her voice so she wouldn't upset her mom. The one who cleaned up the mess, who took care of her siblings, and who made herself small and invisible so she would not be criticized. The child who decided, if I'm easy, if I am quiet, if I overgive, maybe she won't leave. Maybe she'll love me. And when you grow up, that wound does not dissolve. It ends up growing fangs. In abuse, it's the voice in your head saying, if I just love him harder, if I just stay quieter, if I just fix myself, maybe he will change. In dating, it's the pattern of bending yourself into shapes so he chooses you, of minimizing your need to keep him comfortable, of pouring out until you're empty just to feel worthy of crumbs. I had a client share with me, I don't even know who I am anymore. I am just the version of myself that he tolerates. That is not a relationship. That is captivity disguised as caretaking. There was a time period in my marriage where I was running myself into the ground just to keep the peace. He would come home angry. He would ignore me and our son. And instead of letting him just sit in his mood, I'd be cooking his favorite meal. I would be tiptoeing around, making myself smaller just to avoid an argument. I'd do the dishes, look after our son, keep the house spotless, have the dog walked, even laugh or ignore the jokes that he made that cut me, because part of me believed if I could just love him more, he would change. But here's the truth. That was not love. That was my mother wound running the show. That little girl in me who learned very early on that caretaking with safety and overgiving was my worth. She was the child who lowered her voice so her mom wouldn't snap. She tried to make everyone around her comfortable so she wouldn't feel abandoned, who thought love meant proving yourself to be useful. And when she grew up, she put on my skin and walked into my marriage. I stayed too long. I poured until I was empty. I tried until I was angry. And every time I bent myself smaller, I called it sacrifice. But what was it really? Self-abandonment disguised as love. The mother wound doesn't just set you up to tolerate abuse. It scripts your role in it. It wires you into thinking fixing him is the same as keeping him, and that staying no matter what proves your worth. Here's the savage part. Even when you leave, that wound does not vanish. It follows you into dating. Suddenly you're swiping on men who need you, over-functioning on the first date, lowering your standard because you'd rather be chosen for overgiving than risk not being chosen at all. That is your mother wound. Love as labor, worth as sacrifice, and it will keep bleeding into every relationship until you stitch it closed. Here's how these wounds script both abuse and attraction. You didn't just end up with a narcissist or an abuser by chance. You were trained for it. The narcissist fits the blueprint. Distant like dad, critical like mom, volatile like home. Your nervous system doesn't look for love, it looks for familiar. And if familiar was abuse, you'll walk straight into it every single time and you'll call it fate. That's why, even after you leave, chaos still turns you on. It's why safety feels boring and why your body craves the hit of that text after days of silence instead of the steady good morning that actually means something. I know you think you're broken. You're not. You're wired. And until you face these wounds, you will keep swiping past safety and calling the leash you wear love. This is exactly why I created Forged in the Fire. How to turn your scars into sovereignty. A live event happening October 23rd. Because if you don't heal these wounds by avoiding them, you heal them by burning them down, by dragging them into the fire and letting them transform you. That is where the scars stop being shame and start being sovereignty. This is where your nervous system learns that peace is not punishment, safety is not boring, and you are no longer for sale to the highest bidder of your wounds. So how do you stop your wounds from choosing your partner? First, call it out. You need to name it. We're not laughing at daddy issues anymore and minimizing the mother wound. Call them what they are. The blueprint of your nervous system. The story your body keeps telling even when your mind begs it to shut up. Second, you need to reparent yourself. You become the father who shows up consistently. You become the mother who nurtures without conditions. You stop outsourcing these roles to partners who are never capable of giving them to you. Third, you practice discernment. The next time you feel that spark, stop and ask, is this true attraction? Or is this my wound lighting up? That moment is going to be a life and death piece for you. It's the difference between repeating the cycle and breaking it. And that is the point where women either go back into the fire or they rise from it. And finally, you have to choose the fire. You choose to feel what you've been running from your entire life. You choose to sit in the discomfort instead of numbing it. You choose to burn down the lies that abandonment is love, that caretaking is worthiness, that chaos is chemistry. Because when you rise from that fire, you are not the same woman. You are forged, you are sovereign, and you are untouchable. Daddy issues aren't a joke, and the mother wound isn't a throwaway phrase. They are the blueprint of who you love, what you tolerate, and how long you will stay. They will hook you into abuse. You will keep swiping past safety. But the second you stop laughing at it, and the second you start facing them head on, they lose their power. And that's when everything's going to change for you. You will stop craving punishment. You will stop calling destruction chemistry. That's when you'll stop mistaking the leash for love. And for the first time in your life, love stops being a wound replay and it starts being a choice. If this episode cracks something open for you, good. That means you're not just listening, you're waking up and deciding who you are going to be. Share this with a woman who needs it. Hit follow so you don't miss the next one. Send me a DM on Instagram to tell me what landed the hardest for you. And do not miss Forged in the Fire, Turning Your Scars into Sovereignty, a live event on October 23rd. It is free, it is raw, and it's the room where you will burn the blueprint of these wounds. Join us, because you are not meant to survive them, you are meant to rewrite them. This is the Narcissist Worst Nightmare podcast, and remember, you are not just hard to break, you are impossible to replace.